The book, The Glucose Revolution by Jessie Inchauspé, is another one of my favourite reads recently. It's great, actually. She's not a scientist, but she has worked with researchers in the field and had health problems and ended up having a constant glucose monitor, a continuous glucose monitor, sorry. And she got a bit obsessed with it, wrote her own software so that she could see a bit more resolution in the glucose peaks. And she's known as the glucose goddess on Instagram, I believe, and posts regularly about it, including her method for flattening your curves, you call it. So her idea is that you can guard against a lot of disease and weight gain and things like that if you avoid having too big a glucose spike. So eating the right foods, for example, is one of the things she suggests. So not eating really sugary foods all the time obviously will protect your glucose levels in the blood, but there's more to it than that. She does go a lot into the science behind it and how it affects disease, which I can't remember an awful lot about what's in the book because I read it a while ago. That's a good review, isn't it? Hey, I read this a while ago. It was a good book. It said some stuff. The things I took away from it that were interesting is the different techniques to help you avoid glucose spikes without limiting your diet, especially. One is to eat your veggies first. So when you have a meal, start by eating the veggie part of it and the protein part, and then leave the carbs to last. And that will help curb your glucose spike, presumably because the bulk of those veggies and the proteins and fats, they'll prevent quick absorption of the glucose into your blood. They'll be surrounding those carbs and preventing them going straight across. She says if you go out for a night for a meal and maybe have a plate of broccoli before you go, and that does the same effect. It helps to lower the curve. I think when she talks about straightening your curves, not talking about making them flat. You can't do that every time you eat some carbohydrate. You'll have a raise in glucose, but it's preventing big spikes and big dips that she talks about. Another way, of course, of flattening your curve would be just to eat butter, because that has no carbs in it. Obviously, it's something you shouldn't be completely obsessed about and do at all costs. You should have different foods, different nutrients, make sure you get everything you need in. But the idea of avoiding glucose spikes is an intriguing one to me, because obviously if your glucose spikes, your insulin also spikes, and your body has to store all that glucose away somewhere, and too much glucose will cause stress on your cells, on your mitochondria in your cells that have to deal with it all. So if your cells are filling up with loads and loads of sugar, glucose, then they'll degrade, and that's the cause of a lot of disease, a lot of non-communicable diseases. So avoiding spiking it seems like a good idea to me. Another technique she gives is to drink cider vinegar. Cider vinegar apparently is a tradition among some cultures, actually, especially Germanic cultures, where they always have it before a meal, or they drink it throughout the day. A little bit, maybe a tablespoon of cider vinegar in water, and that will help lower your glucose spike, and it does amazingly help, which really is fascinating. I don't know why it helps. There are other books I've read that have pointed this out as well. And I've tried it. I've tried drinking the cider vinegar in the day. It is a little difficult, so you should start small and build up if you're going to do that. But it does. That one intrigues me because of the idea of fermented foods, things like sauerkraut and kombucha, and the health benefits of them. Kombucha itself is a fermented tea drink, and you put sugar in it it's a sweet tea that you then ferment with a SCOBY, which is a collection of beneficent bacteria that help your gut. And there are a lot of very good bacteria that you find in your gut. And so it's been lauded as a health drink by certain people. I make kombucha. I've got a kombucha still, and I do drink it on the following Tim Spector, who does it as well, and same with kefir as well. It's another fermented drink. The reason why I mentioned them is because if you keep fermenting something like kefir or like yogurt, it's another one, and like kombucha, then it will slowly turn sour, and that's because it's got lactobacilli, which are bacteria that eat up the lactose and then create lactic acid, and that's what makes it turn sour. And eventually, if you keep fermenting those things, you'll get vinegar, which is fascinating to me. So what does the vinegar do? Does it inhibit the bacteria? Because if you do keep fermenting it, the vinegar, eventually it will get so sour that the yeasts in there will die out or become very inactive. So is it the vinegar that is preventing or at least slowing down the fermentation process in your gut? Is it quelling the bacteria and reducing the amount of glucose that's going across? Either way, for hundreds of years, people in Germanic countries have been drinking cider as a cider vinegar as a health tonic, and that's intriguing to me. Very interesting fact. Another thing she says is to exercise straight after a meal. So if you have a high carb meal, you're worried about it, go for a walk straight after, use your muscles, and that of course will take the glucose out of the bloodstream, at least a certain amount of it, and so flatten your curve. It's an intriguing book. It's a really interesting one. Jessie herself is beautiful, blonde, thin person, which I don't know how to take. I always feel a little bit unsure when thin people tell fat people what to do, but perhaps she was overweight before and this approach has helped to lose weight. Who knows? She will. But it's a great book. It is a great book. It's opened my eyes about glucose and the effects it has on your system. It's not an enemy. Glucose can't be the enemy because your body needs it. But high doses of glucose, perhaps that's how it causes cravings, is with these blood sugar spikes. Perhaps that's how it causes diabetes, by constantly stressing these cells out. And then that's why when you have a fasting level above 7 millimoles, then it starts to become overloaded. The system becomes overloaded with glucose. Good read. Read it. I say that with all the books that I talk about. Maybe I should review one I don't agree with. I will. I have one. Anyway, take care. Bye.